Hey everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Modern SaaS Podcast. Today we have some interesting topic that we want to discuss. It's less of an opinion, but a lot of questions that we were having internally. And there was a lot of confusion is going around in the world. So we thought, why don't we brainstorm these topics?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say more than a question, it is a conundrum of sorts as to how to think about this. So we're going to discuss about what is sales led or what is marketing led, what is product led. So there is all of these so many leads to the extent that sometimes I think are we being misled, right? So Aditya, first of all, why do we call this led? Should we even call this? Is it important to name this?
The reason that we decided to discuss this topic itself, we felt that someone had created this term at some point, some investor, the term started getting popular, and now we have reached to a point, to rightly you said, that we are being either misled or being misused. And it's not to the point that are these terms are wrong or what exactly do they mean. People do believe that they have some understanding of what is truly sales led, what is truly product led, but I think there are some nuances that people are missing. One of the questions I was also thinking about, who cares? Why does it really matter to discuss what is these motions actually mean, the go to market motions, and who cares about the specificity of the names and the labels that we are using? But then I realized that there's a value in having a clarity in these things. When you're talking to investors, you're able to explain what's your go to market motion very clearly. Maybe when you're talking to your potential candidates hiring wise, you're able to explain this very clearly, that what's your go to market motion, how it happens, and all of that. And the more and more I started truly understanding how people are referring these, I felt that that's not their motion is at all, but they still keep talking to them, something like that. And then I started questioning what this whole lead based phenomenon is. To me, I felt like it's going in a wrong direction. There are some new companies who started calling themselves product led sales. Now it's a new term because PLG is very popular, product led growth. But guess what? Everyone wants to create a new category. So now new software providers started calling themselves product led sales, and now it's a PLS. Some people say, oh, it's a product led and sales assisted. We used to call that for a very long time. And I started questioning all these things, that as the modern SaaS is evolving, now there are all these terms are being misused and there's too much noise. So why don't we just bring up these discussion points to our audience and just share our perspective, what we think is truly happening. We may not have a very strong opinion what we should call it, but I just felt we should hear from the community itself. I still have a lot of thoughts about it, but that's the reason why we started talking about it.
It makes a lot of sense because to an extent I'm also hearing a lot of other new leads, like say for example customer led. If you think
Hmm.
about it, every company is fundamentally customer led or should be customer led. We
Hmm.
live and breathe for the customer, so why do you call yourself customer led? And now that brings us to the next perspective when we talk about product led or sales led and all these motions. The
Hmm.
fundamental fact is what leads somebody to call someone into a specific GTM motion.
Sure.
So is it because how somebody gets into the company's ecosystem? For example, let's take Avoma's website. Somebody signs up for the product right away. Is it product led? If you ask me, I'm not sure. And if somebody directly signs up and then talks to the salesperson, is it completely sales led? I'm not sure because there is a marketing element, there is this, there is that. So, what is your thoughts there?
Think about this problem. It's a very valid question, and this is exactly where the whole confusion comes in. And I think we are over anchoring some of these terms, even though there are a lot of things that are playing the role what your growth is really happening. So to simplify this, the way you should divide this, there are two parts of this whole go-to-market motion. The acquisition part of the motion, how somebody gets aware about your brand, visits your website, and lands on your website, something like that. So how are you acquiring traffic to your website is the number one thing. That is the part of the acquisition. The second part is the conversion. How somebody, from once they know about your product or your website or your service, how they go and buy your product. And this is where people are not dividing these two things separately, and they're combining these two things. Now, let me explain you a little bit. When you think about the acquisition phase, in my opinion, the way you said marketing led, yes, so you do some marketing. That's how people are visiting your website. It could be organic marketing, all your content marketing, search engine optimization, all those things that you do. It could be your paid marketing, all the search engine marketing, paid ads, all of that stuff. It could be PR, something like that. That's how people visit your website. Now, there is a sales led, in my opinion, could be completely outbound motion. If you're reaching out through cold calling, cold email, and that's how people learn about your website or your product, and then they go and visit your website. In my opinion, that should be sales led because somebody is individually driving these people and asking them to visit your website. There is a product led element into there as well. Let's say your product is truly viral, and while people were using the product, they started sharing something, they started inviting other people, and that's how other people learned about because somebody else was using the product. In my opinion, that's truly a product led acquisition. Now, the whole led part honestly feels only right up to the acquisition part. What led that visitor to go and visit your website? That's how it should be simple. But we have taken it over to the conversion phase as well. So everyone who says that, oh, it's a product led growth, they're confusing two things. They're also talking about the conversion as well. In my opinion, most of the time people were referring the product led to the actual conversion related discussion. So to give you an example, the conversion, once somebody visits your website, now they have multiple options. So you can provide them self-service sign up, go and sign up on your own. It's a trial for maybe a month, and you explore your product on your own, you sign up. And then once you are happy with the product after using for a month, you decide to go and buy that software. Or it could be a sales related assisted motion where you are saying that, hey, I visit your website, but you asked me to book a demo. Now, a salesperson educated me about your product functionality and they asked me to eventually say that, okay, sure, I would like to now buy this. That conversion thing is what people have been referring as a lead. And I think that's where the confusion in the industry is because of these two things. And to me, if I look at what different motions are available in conversion funnel, yes, it is product led is truly when it's a self-service experience where you're not talking to anybody in that company and you're just experiencing the product yourself and buying it on your own. I would say success assisted, and I don't want to say the led is the right term there, but let's say assisted. So product assisted, which is the self-service motion, or it could be a success customer success assisted, where or support assisted. A lot of the times, what happens is that you sign up for the product, and maybe you have few questions. So you're asking your support team or customer success team, you're getting some help, and through those answers, you decide to go and you still buy it. But at least there was some level of human touch was there. The third motion is completely sales assisted, where we're saying that, okay, you book the demo, salesperson walk you through different phases, and they got the buy-in, and they eventually, before even trialing, or maybe even after some time trialing, you ended up deciding buying the software. So to me, it might sound confusing, but really, sometimes your product could be marketing led, but it's a sales assisted. Sometimes it's a marketing led, but it could be completely product led. And I can give you examples of this, but that's really how I want to divide that. There are two phases. One is the acquisition phase, and the other is the conversion phase. And we should think about these things separately.
I absolutely love this part, especially when you divide this into acquisition and conversion, because you know in my mind, the way I think about something led is more like what is more dominant, right?
Hmm.
So the dominant part plays the key. Now, if you take the example of, say, a product like Loom, where somebody sends me a video link, I
Hmm.
click on it, I look at the video, and that is going on. That I'm not reading any marketing copies, or I'm not necessarily going through LinkedIn or say any other content piece and landing there. Somebody sent me a link. I'm looking at that video, and through that I realized that there is this product called Loom, and
Hmm.
then I go and check it out, and I think, hey, this is a good product for me to use. Now the confusion is, because somebody shared that link, are they marketing that link to me, or is it product led? So what is the dominant part there becomes a key question.
In this particular example, that is a very good. So let's take examples of each of these categories. Loom is a great example
Yeah.
where the acquisition is also product led and the conversion also is probably product led. But now here is the thing. Is it always the case? If you look at Loom's history, and I remember reading this blog post somewhere else, or I think Loom's founder had shared this on Twitter, how they acquired their first 10,000 users. It was not through product. They launched it on Product Hunt. That's a marketing event. You publish your product on some website, some third party network where people discovered you. That was a marketing. Through marketing, initial set of users came in and then they started using the product. So the acquisition happened through marketing led. And then once these people started using the product, the conversion happened completely self service, which is product assisted or self service assisted. But over the period, as the product started getting more and more popular, Loom started investing in the core sharing functionality to make it more viral, to make it easier for people who are discovering that product to also sign up easily. Now, that's when your second layer of acquisition came in. So, a lot of the confusion happens that when you say that, oh, acquisition is product led or marketing led, you don't have to have only one layer. It depends on the phase of your startup. Start with one motion, then start adding another layer. So you think about it's almost a layered cake. And that's how it will be. You start with the marketing led, then you invest in doing more of a product led. Then over the period, now Loom also has a sales team. So now they realize that we need to proactively go and sell this. So this also has a sales led motion. So calling Loom completely product led is also misleading. To your point, it's misled. So I think the way to think about this is these are all layers that you will build up over the period in your startup go to market motion. Yes, people still want to refer what is the dominant motion here that we talked about, and maybe the dominant motion is the product led. That's why people are calling it as a product led. But the problem, because what happens is then the people ignore that, oh, just because Loom is product led, do we not invest in then the marketing motion? Do we not invest in the outbound sales motion? And that's the question founders should be asking themselves that yes, product led is a dominant factor for us, but that doesn't mean that we will not be investing in marketing. That doesn't mean that we will not be investing in outbound motion. And that's the difference when I think about people are referring who they are. It's a phase wise approach. Slack also is a great example. When Slack was launched, very similar use case. At some point, they must have discovered Slack for the first time. Some users have discovered it. Few people signed up. Because of the virality, more people started discovering Slack. But now, eventually, they also have sales led motion. So you can see that every startup has this layered motion. And it's false to say that one company only does one thing.
That makes a lot of sense. So can I assume that this is, or I don't know, I mean, you have this is your second company, so you are a better person to say this. Do you think that it is more from a scale perspective? So the way I like to understand, or I like to look at this, is that yes, when I start,
Mhm.
maybe I start with marketing, then invest on product led to increase that scalability of the product or get more users, and then maybe when I go to the next stage, when I move and start going upstream into the market and start
Mhm.
targeting, say, enterprise users, at that point I want more control on who are the set of people who sign up for my product. So
Mhm.
I will invest on a sales motion which will target a set of people. It might be an SDR team, or it might be an outbound marketing team, demand gen team,
Yeah.
whatever. But let me target a set of audience, or even ABM for that matter, and then attract those people, and there is a separate motion around that. So do we go by who are the customers we are going after? Is that a fair representation?
Yes, both are valid points. I think you talked about one thing was the phase or the scale of the company itself, and that is absolutely right. So sometimes if you are a new startup and you don't have a lot of credibility, your product is not mature, doing marketing led and product led are the right approaches. Having talking about your product, doing some search engine optimization, and bringing people to your product is all valid. But again, you don't probably have also budget. So maybe in those situations early on, the founders are reaching out to people. So technically, it is founder led, or it's still sales led? The founder is playing the sales role.
Founder led is also a term, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is. But technically, it is what job the founder is doing. And that's how I would put it. Is the founder doing sales or is the founder doing marketing? So if founder is reaching out outbound to get those early customers, it is a sales led motion early on. And but it may not be, to your point. It's, you don't probably have a full optimized sales team and all of that. That's totally fine. The reason I think this is important is that it's so nuanced. Like, even if I'm saying right now, it might sound confusing, but that is what the reality is. That people over anchor trying to name yourself in some particular way, but you miss that that's how the early growth is happening. There are multiple, these motions are playing part of it. And I think the acquisition part is what, how are people being aware of your product is one thing, but let's say the conversion itself early on, I would say having a free trial is important. Going after maybe a small set of customers, SMB, mid market customer, is important, where they don't require a lot of salespeople and a lot of big processes and all of that. And that's why I would say that it's predominantly going to be a trial experience. You give free trial to these customers, let them use the product, and they're hopefully they are going to convert. But I would even question early on, it's probably better that you're involved as a founder or as a whoever, a couple of people who are on the go to market side, that you're driving these early customers to really make sure, because product is not going to be more mature, there are features that are going to be missing, so you need to be there to assist them, to help them in those situations. So on one thing you might say that it's actually phase driven, but I would even question sometimes it is not. Even in the smaller stages, you are involving more people. And in later stages, as you mature, probably now you're saying, okay, now we have a lot of self-service. In-app tutorials are built in, more guided tutorials are there in the app, more videos and documentation is created, product is more mature so that people have less and less support questions. And now you see the self-service motion. So it feels opposite to say that let's introduce sales assisted motion as you scale. But I would actually even question, it could be other way around as well. This again, it's confusing, but that's the reality. Like, look at it, how often you're helping bring people to a website, and then how often you're helping them to convert to buy. Is it really, really truly self-service? Probably not. Then you're calling yourself as a product led and product assisted is absolutely wrong.
Right, right. And to your question or to your thought process around acquisition versus conversion. So, is this product led, sales led phenomenon, does it concur or does it happen on both sides? So, say for example, is it that I start product led and then the conversion happens in something else? Or, for example, can conversion also be product led? Is it possible?
Yes, I mean, this is exactly the point, as I said, like Loom or even in Avoma, we see that there are some people who sign up to our product and they go ahead and buy on their own. They don't talk to us at all through their own credit card. So they put in the credit card, they never talk to us. And let's take an example of Calendly. There's a great example where I've never talked to Calendly salesperson, but I went ahead and bought Calendly. And the conversion happens because of the trial experience, and I get what I wanted and I'm good. Here's my credit card. A lot of companies, the whole trial experience that people are talking about is basically the product led or product assisted. Again, the led term is fine. What you're saying is that, is the acquisition product led or the conversion product led? Here the conversion is product led, which is basically the self-service trial experience. So it is totally doable. And in Calendly's example, once I share my Calendly link with somebody else, they are also going to discover Calendly. And now they visit Calendly website. They said, oh, you know what? This is interesting. I also want it. Now that is where it is truly product-led acquisition. And if that person also goes ahead and buys on its own, then it's also product-led conversion. But if that person decides to talk to the Calendly sales team because he had some or she had some complex requirement, now it's a product led acquisition, but sales led conversion. That's what the confusion is. People don't understand the nuances of it. And I think, and I don't know what to call this. I think it's important to have simple terms. Maybe we would think about these things and come up with better names. But that's how I think that people should be dividing these two motions into two different things. At least that would be the takeaway I would take from this conversation, is that I just felt Calling somebody just product led is missing the point, is misleading, because there are so many other nuances that are happening there.
Before we go to the takeaways, one thing that still I would like to ask, or probably I would like for us to discuss about, is this also dependent on, say, the complexity of the product? Say
Hmm.
if it's a easy product, easy to use tool, like say for example HubSpot's SEO grader. Okay,
Hmm.
I go in, I just type in my website, I start using it. Maybe Hrefs,
Hmm.
I just key in my avoma.com, and I get pretty much what I would like to see. The time to value is quick. So I've never read any email copies or anything from Avoma. I mean, so from Hrefs, or I've never had a sales rep from their company call me, but there is still this usage. So is it because that product is more easy to use, or that market is more mature, that the entire GT motion is different compared to, say, somebody who has a very complex product where you need a walkthrough?
100%. I would say 100%. That's the whole point. Like, is your product single purpose utility function? And do people already know some of these things, and have is your product easy enough for to understand, get them started? Have you built in the workflows? Product is intuitive enough that they're able to use it? Absolutely. If that's the case, then you don't need to talk to somebody else. And the more your product gets complex, more advanced configuration settings and that setting, more customization implementation, that's where you would probably talk to a support person, or maybe the sales team is going and saying that, hey, we have this onboarding team. Let us explain you what our comprehensive product does. I'm going to sell you just based on the promise, and then our onboarding team will come and help you out to set up your account as well. Both are valid approaches. I'm not saying every single product has to be product led. Can every product be a product led? Essentially, the conversion point of view, not again from the acquisition. I think the biggest mistake that people are doing is that they call the product led on everything should be part of the conversion. It should not be part of the how the acquisition is happening, because acquisition still, again, as we said, marketing, sales, there are multiple channels that are playing the part, and product is also part of that acquisition, the virality and all of that. The question is how the conversion happens, and can every product has this element where there's a free trial? I don't believe that's valid for every single product. I would argue that a lot of the products could be product led than what people think that they could. If I'm thinking about an example, let's say contact center, the classic example where there are hundreds of agents and doing this cold call support thing. But contact center software is not going to happen where each agent is going and buying their own free trial. A lot of the times, these are workflow solutions bought by the top level people rather than each individual end user. There is a possibility if you're targeting the SMB segment, it's possible that the agent discovers something and then proposes that solution to their leadership. But 99% of the time, contact center solution will be bought by top down, and you are not going to see a free trial use case there because there are compliance requirement, security requirements, all the other things that people need to make sure those workflows are being addressed. But that's kind of how I think about it. Yes, it depends on the complexity of the product, depends on the industry sometimes. Is it a single player use case mode, or the top down authority needs to be involved in the decision making? All those decisions also will play some role.
Right, right. Makes a lot of sense. And if I have to have one key takeaway from all of these things, the number one thing, tell me if I'm having this right, or, feel free to add to that. My key takeaway here is that you don't have to be obligated to just stick to one GTM motion just because, you call yourself this or that.
Yes.
Because it is important to realize that where you are and what contributes to your growth right now. And it's always important to add more layers to that as you are growing and maturing as an organization.
And I think that is 100% right. If you think about, even in just what I said, even in just the acquisition, you have multiple layers that will be contributing how people are getting aware of your product. And that's what the growth element. So the problem with the product led growth term, that the growth aspect was that how many people know about your product and how that number will continue to grow. So the more number of people know about your product, they're going to visit your website or product, and that's basically what it was. But if I look at it, yes, there are multiple elements are playing the role in that acquisition. It could be from products virality, that people know about your product. As we talked about early on, it could be marketing, it could be sales, any of those things. But then the conversion part also could have multiple elements. It would also have self service, it could also have sales or support assisted, and it could be completely have a demo based version. It's a bow tie kind of model. There are three layers here, three layers in the acquisition, three layers in the conversion, and you can mix and match. And both of these are completely valid workflows. Yes, people would question, now that you have to understand what percent of customers are coming from the product led, from the acquisition side of you. So when you start understanding that there are these different percentages are coming in, then you identify which are the dominant ones in both. And then you call yourself that, okay, our acquisition is happening through products virality, but our conversion is happening through sales assistance. So that's the motion that we have. Or our acquisition is happening purely through content, and our conversion is happening through completely through self-service. Then it's a marketing led, but product assisted self-service kind of conversion. So I feel like once you start understanding the differences, the nuances, then you can start investing your budget, your go-to-market motion. You can double down on those things rather than calling yourself, oh, we are just product led, we don't have to do all other things. And so that's where the my takeaway would be.
This is amazing. The way you said this, I'm almost imagining three different dashboards saying, hey, this one contributes this much, this one contributes this much. And as a founding team, or as anyone part of the growth team, would like to look at that and understand how are we performing and what is contributing to us, and double down on that. So that is amazing. And to the listeners, what I would say is, if you have other points of view that we are missing today, we would love to listen from you as well. And keep it coming on DMs, or on LinkedIn, or even write to us at Yagatavoma or aditya@avoma.com as well. So this is what we would like to leave you with. Do you want to add anything as a last quote, Aditya?
No, I feel like one of the earlier things that you said was really well said, that we are being misled by all this product led, sales led. All these people are coming up with some nomenclatures to call themselves. They're creating these categories, but I think we are being misled. And as a SaaS community, we need to simplify these things. Maybe what we said is not simplifying, maybe it's complicating it as well. But I think we are trying to get to the truth. What our point here is that we may not have the answer, but at least we are asking the questions. We are trying to seek the truth here, that it needs to be broken down. The way it's been communicated is misled. And that's really what my takeaway here is.
Amazing. So that is that from us in this episode. And until we connect with you the next time on another episode with another interesting topic, we would, as always, request you to keep supporting us, listening to our episodes. Give us 5 stars, subscribe to our shows, share it with your friends.
All right. Bye bye.